What if I told you there's a deliberate business strategy that throws out everything you learned in business school, and it's exactly how Amazon, Google, Airbnb, Facebook, and WeChat became the most powerful companies on Earth? That strategy is called Blitzscaling, and today we're breaking down the entire book. The year is 2011. Airbnb has 40 employees and has raised $7 million. They're proud of what they've built, a scrappy little startup letting people rent out their rooms online. Then the nightmare begins. Three brothers from Germany, Oliver, Mark, and Alexander Samwer, had made a fortune by cloning successful American startups, launching them in Europe, and either selling them back or building them into giants. They had done it with eBay. Now they set their sights on Airbnb. In March 2011, they launched WIMDU, a direct clone of Airbnb. But here's the terrifying part. Within weeks, WIMDU had 400 employees, 20 offices across Europe, and $90 million in funding. That's 10 times Airbnb's headcount and more than 12 times the capital, in a matter of weeks. The Samwers sent Airbnb's CEO Brian Chesky a message: "Sell us 25% of your company, or we'll destroy you." Brian called Mark Zuckerberg, called Paul Graham of Y Combinator, called Reid Hoffman himself. Every single person said the same thing: don't buy them. Fight. So Brian fought. He raised $112 million, opened 9 international offices, and launched an all-out global expansion. Within months, Airbnb had gone from a San Francisco startup to a global force. WIMDU faded. Airbnb won. Brian Chesky later said, "The Samwers gave us a gift. They forced us to scale faster than we ever would have." That aggressive, speed-first, efficiency-later strategy? That's blitzscaling. So what exactly is blitzscaling? Reid Hoffman defines it as prioritizing speed over efficiency in the face of uncertainty. That last part, in the face of uncertainty, is critical. This isn't the same as a company that knows it's going to grow and just steps on the gas. Blitzscaling means you're going full throttle even when you don't have all the answers. Even when you're burning money. Even when you're breaking things. Hoffman uses a brilliant metaphor. It's like assembling an airplane while jumping off a cliff, and then strapping on jet engines while you're still building the wings. It's terrifying. It's costly. It's chaotic. But in winner-take-all markets, it's the only move that works. To understand why blitzscaling is unique, let's compare it to 3 other ways companies grow. Classic startup growth is efficient but slow. You're uncertain about the market, so you move carefully, test assumptions, and conserve cash. This is the lean startup approach, good for figuring out what works. Classic scale-up growth is efficient and certain. You've figured it out, and now you're optimizing. Think of a traditional corporate expansion, controlled, measured, ROI-driven. Fast scaling means you're willing to sacrifice some efficiency for speed, but the market conditions are predictable. You're growing fast, but you know roughly what you're getting into. And then there's blitzscaling, sacrificing efficiency for speed without the certainty. You're moving faster than your confidence in the outcome. This is the highest risk, highest reward mode. The question is, when is that the right move? And the answer is, when you're playing in a winner-take-all market, where being second place means losing everything. Blitzscaling doesn't happen in one leap. It happens in stages, and each stage demands a completely different approach to leadership. Hoffman maps these stages to the size of a community. Stage 1. The family, 1 to 9 employees. Everyone knows everyone. The founder does almost everything. Decisions are made over lunch. Stage 2. The tribe, 10 to 99 employees. You're starting to need managers. Culture is forming. Communication is still mostly direct. Stage 3. The village, hundreds of employees. You need systems now. HR, legal, finance, departments are forming. Things that worked informally must now be written down. Stage 4. The city, thousands of employees. The founder can no longer know everyone's name. You need layers of leadership. Strategy must be broadcast, not just discussed. Stage 5. The nation. Tens of thousands of employees. The company is an institution. The founder's role is more like a head of state than a manager. Here's the critical insight. What works at one stage actively breaks at the next. The founder who was brilliant at the family stage may be the bottleneck at the city stage. Great blitzscalers recognize this and reinvent their leadership constantly. Now let's get into the 3 core techniques of blitzscaling. The first is business model innovation. This is where most founders fail. They obsess over their product and their technology and completely neglect the question, how does this actually make money at scale? Hoffman identifies 4 factors that drive growth in any business model. Market size. Is the opportunity big enough to justify blitzscaling? If the market is small, no amount of speed will produce a billion-dollar company. Distribution. How do you reach customers efficiently? Viral loops, partnerships, and platform leverage can make distribution almost free. High gross margins. Margins fund growth. Google's AdWords generates 61% gross margins. That's money Amazon or Uber can reinvest into expansion. Network effects. When every new user makes the product better for existing users, you've built a moat that's almost impossible to breach. And 2 factors that limit growth. Lack of product market fit. If customers don't love the product, no amount of scaling fixes that. You'll just burn money faster. Poor operational scalability. If your operations can't grow with your users, the whole thing collapses. Instagram had 100 million users with just 13 employees. That's operational scalability done right. Let me spend a moment on network effects, because this is arguably the most powerful concept in the book. A direct network effect means every new user adds value to all existing users. Think of WhatsApp. The more people on it, the more useful it is. Or Facebook. Or LinkedIn. This creates a self-reinforcing flywheel. Grow, more valuable, more growth. An indirect network effect means users on one side attract a different type of user on the other. Android is the perfect example. More Android users, more app developers build for Android, better apps, more Android users. Apple's iOS works the same way. A 2-sided network effect is the marketplace model. AIRBNB needs both hosts and guests. Uber needs both drivers and riders. eBay needs both buyers and sellers. The platform itself creates the value by bringing both sides together. And here's why this matters for blitzscaling. The first company to trigger a powerful network effect is nearly impossible to displace. eBay launched in 1995. 20 years later, it's still dominant in peer-to-peer commerce, not because it has the best technology, but because it got there first. This is why blitzscalers sprint to critical mass. Not because they want to be big, but because being first to the network effect makes them unbeatable. Before we move to strategy, let's quickly look at the business model patterns that have proven to scale. The subscription model. Think Netflix and Spotify. Recurring revenue, high customer lifetime value, and highly predictable growth. Once someone subscribes, inertia keeps them paying. The marketplace model, AIRBNB, Uber, eBay. You don't own the inventory, you just connect buyers and sellers and take a cut. Infinitely scalable because you're not constrained by physical assets. The freemium model, Dropbox, Slack. Give away the core product for free, then charge for premium features or scale. The free product is your best marketing tool. The ad-supported model, Google, Facebook. Build massive scale first. Monetize attention later. Works only when you can build the kind of data advantage that makes your ads far more valuable than anyone else's. The key question for every founder: which model creates the strongest network effects in your specific market? The second technique is strategy innovation, specifically, knowing when to hit the gas. Hoffman identifies 4 signals that tell you the time is right to blitzscale. Signal 1. A big new opportunity. A technological shift has opened a market that didn't exist before, or completely scrambled an existing one. YouTube was perfectly timed because broadband speeds finally made video streaming possible for everyday users. The opportunity is vast, and it's open. Signal 2. First scalar advantage. If you can reach critical mass before anyone else, network effects will protect you indefinitely. This is the offensive reason to blitzscale. Signal 3. A steep learning curve. In fields like AI and autonomous vehicles, the more data you collect and the faster you iterate, the smarter your system gets. Speed of learning equals durable competitive advantage. Signal 4. Competitive threat. This is the defensive reason to blitzscale. If you don't move fast, someone else will, and they'll lock you out permanently. This is exactly what happened to AIRBNB with WIMDU. But, and this is crucial, premature blitzscaling is one of the fastest ways to kill a company. Hoffman calls it blitzfailing. Webvan poured billions into grocery delivery in the late 90s before the market was ready, before they had product market fit, and before logistics technology could support it. They destroyed not just themselves, but the entire grocery delivery market for a decade. The lesson: make sure the conditions are right before you press the button. Just as important as knowing when to start is knowing when to stop. Blitzscaling is like the afterburners on a fighter jet. Incredible power, but they consume fuel at a rate you simply cannot sustain forever. You turn them on for a sprint, then turn them off. Here are the warning signs that your blitzscaling window is closing. Your growth rate is declining relative to the market. Your unit economics are getting worse over time. Productivity per employee is falling. Management overhead is ballooning. These are the early warning signals. Don't wait for a crisis. Begin transitioning to efficient growth before you slam into the ceiling. The cautionary tale here is Groupon, one of the fastest growing companies in history, until the daily deals market hit its limit. Groupon kept hiring aggressively even as growth stalled. They replaced the CEO. It didn't help, because no CEO can blitzscale in a market that has run out of headroom. Twitter made the same mistake, adding nearly 300 employees in 2015 while user growth had already frozen. The discipline of blitzscaling is knowing not just how to sprint, but exactly when to stop. The third and often most underestimated technique is management innovation. As a company scales through the 5 stages, leadership must undergo 8 fundamental transitions. From managing individuals to managing managers to managing executives. At each level, the skills required are completely different. From dialogue, direct conversation with your team, to broadcasting, where you communicate strategy to thousands of people who will never meet you. From making decisions based on inspiration and gut feeling to making them based on data and metrics. This doesn't mean gut instinct disappears, but it must be supported by systems. From being a single-threaded organization focused on one thing, to a multi-threaded operation running multiple priorities simultaneously. From acting like pirates, fast, scrappy, break the rules, to running a navy, structured, reliable, with real process. Neither pirates nor navies are inherently better. The key is knowing which mode you need at which stage. From scaling yourself to scaling the organization. The founder who personally interviews every hire can't function at 5,000 employees. You must build systems that scale without you. And finally, from saying yes to everything to saying strategic no. As the company grows, discipline and focus become as important as speed. Alongside those transitions, Hoffman lays out 9 counterintuitive rules that blitzscalers must embrace, rules that feel deeply wrong to traditional business thinkers. Rule 1. Hire good enough people, not perfect ones. Waiting for the ideal candidate while the market moves means you lose. Speed of team building matters. Rule 2. Launch a flawed, imperfect product. A mediocre product in market beats a perfect product still in development. Real-world feedback is worth more than internal perfection. Rule 3. Let fires burn. You cannot solve every problem at hyperspeed. Identify which fires threaten the core business and which ones you can temporarily ignore. Rule 4. Ignore some of your customers. Not all feedback is created equal. At the blitzscaling stage, optimizing for your most vocal early users can derail you from the mainstream market you're trying to capture. Rule 5. Raise far more money than you think you need. Unexpected problems, and there will be many, require capital reserves. The graveyard is full of companies that ran out of runway with a great product. Rule 6. Evolve your culture deliberately. Culture doesn't just happen. At scale, it must be designed, reinforced, and sometimes deliberately reset. Rule 7. Build the machine that builds the machine. Don't just build a great product. Build the system, the processes, and the team that can continuously produce great products. Rule 8. Make decisions with incomplete information. This is the essence of blitzscaling. You will never have 100% confidence. Waiting for certainty means waiting too long. Rule 9. Trust your gut and your data. Neither alone is sufficient. Data tells you what's happening. Gut tells you what it means. Let's bring all of this to life with 4 case studies. First, Amazon. In 1996, Amazon had 151 employees and $5.1 million in revenue. By 1999, just 3 years later, it had 7,600 employees and $1.64 billion in revenue. That's a 322-fold increase in revenue in 36 months. Amazon's blitzscaling wasn't random. Jeff Bezos built what he called the flywheel. Lower prices attract more customers attract more third-party sellers, more sellers improve selection and efficiency, better efficiency enables lower prices. Feed any part of the loop, and the whole thing accelerates. But here's what most people miss. Amazon appeared to sacrifice profits for years. Wall Street criticized them constantly. The reality: Amazon was investing those would-be profits into infrastructure, logistics, and new categories, building moats so deep that competitors couldn't follow. And when AWS emerged, the real profit engine revealed itself. Cloud computing with 61% gross margins, now the hidden engine powering half the internet. The lesson from Amazon: blitzscaling isn't reckless, it's disciplined aggression with long-term compound thinking. Google's story is the ultimate business model innovation case study. When Google launched, there were dozens of search engines. Yahoo, Excite, AltaVista, Lycos. Why did Google win? It wasn't just the algorithm. Google built AdWords, a self-service, relevance-based advertising auction that automatically rewarded the most relevant ads, not the highest bidder. This was a radical business model innovation. It generated far more revenue per search than any competitor, and it created a flywheel. More revenue funded better infrastructure, which produced better search results, which attracted more users, which attracted more advertisers. But Google also blitzscaled its distribution. The AOL search deal in 2002, when Google barely had $15 million in the bank, committed to paying AOL $150 million per year in guaranteed minimum revenue. Insanely risky. But it worked, nearly doubling Google's revenue overnight. Then came Android, Chrome, YouTube, each one a distribution bet that extended Google's dominance into new platforms. The lesson from Google: innovating on the business model and on distribution, not just the product, is what builds $100 billion companies. Facebook's blitzscaling story has 2 pivotal moments that define the whole playbook. Moment 1. The distribution hack. When Facebook launched at universities, it didn't go campus to campus in random order. It waited until over 50% of a campus's students had requested Facebook, then launched. This guaranteed immediate local critical mass. The network effect was activated from day 1. Moment 2. The mobile pivot. In the early 2010s, Facebook's mobile product was slow and clunky, and growth was stalling. Zuckerberg made a radical call. He put a complete moratorium on new features and redirected the entire engineering team to rebuild mobile from scratch. That decision, plus the acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp, both called overpriced at the time, made Facebook the dominant force in mobile social networking. And then there's the business model, the news feed ad format. By blending advertisements with content, Facebook created ads that users actually engage with, generating 87% gross margins and billions in annual profit. The lesson from Facebook: the leader who pivots fastest survives the longest. One of the most powerful parts of this book is the argument that blitzscaling is not a Silicon Valley phenomenon. It's a universal playbook. In China, Tencent's WeChat was built in just 2 months by a 10-person team. It hit 100 million users in 16 months. Today, it's a super app combining messaging, payments, e-commerce, and social media, all in one. Tencent's revenues grew 700% in the 6 years after WeChat launched. In Latin America, Mercado Libre built a dominant e-commerce platform in markets that Amazon and eBay had written off as too risky. By being the first scaler in Latin America, Mercado Libre achieved network effects that even Amazon couldn't dislodge. In Europe, Spotify blitzscaled the music streaming market. Zalando blitzscaled European fashion e-commerce. In the United States, it's not just Silicon Valley. Priceline blitzscaled online travel from Connecticut. Rocket Mortgage digitized the mortgage market from Detroit. The lesson: geography doesn't determine who can blitzscale. Strategy does. Now, there's a chapter in this book that doesn't get enough attention, and it's the one on responsible blitzscaling. Speed creates blind spots. When you're growing at 3x per year, privacy policies, labor practices, content moderation, and regulatory compliance can fall through the cracks, not out of malice, but out of sheer velocity. Hoffman introduces the concept of the response spectrum, a framework for how companies should handle the ethical and social consequences of their growth. At one end, ignore. Pretend the problem doesn't exist. This is the fastest route to catastrophic trust collapse. At the other end, lead. Proactively identify ethical issues before they become crises, build solutions into your culture and product, and set standards for your industry. The best blitzscalers don't wait for regulators or public outrage. They embed responsibility into their growth architecture from the beginning. Zuckerberg's own retrospective on "Move fast and break things" is telling. He eventually changed the motto to "Move fast with stable infrastructure," because at scale, the things you break don't just affect your team. They affect billions of people. What if you're not the blitzscaler, but you're facing one? Amazon's entry into bookselling destroyed 80% of independent bookstores between 1994 and 2009. Yet by 2017, the number of independent bookstores had started growing again, reaching over 2,300. How? By doing what Amazon cannot. Community, curation, experience, events, physical presence. Independent bookstores didn't try to out-Amazon Amazon. They found the territory Amazon couldn't reach. The framework for defending against a blitzscaler. Don't fight them on their turf. They have more capital, more data, and more network effects than you. You cannot win a head-to-head arms race. Find your niche and own it completely. Blitzscalers win by going wide. You can win by going deep in a market they overlook or can't serve. Build loyalty that transcends convenience. Amazon wins on price and speed. A business built on trust, community, or unique expertise can win on dimensions Amazon doesn't even compete on. The rule: in a world of blitzscalers, differentiation is your best defense. Let's bring it all together with the 3 big ideas from blitzscaling. Takeaway 1. Speed is the strategy. In winner-take-all markets, the first company to reach critical mass captures the network effects and locks in a competitive advantage that is almost impossible to overcome. Being second in a market with strong network effects is functionally the same as losing. You don't have to be the first to launch, but you must be the first to scale. Takeaway 2. Business model beats technology. The companies that built $100 billion empires weren't just great engineers. They were brilliant business model architects. Google's AdWords, Facebook's news feed, Amazon's flywheel, Airbnb's two-sided marketplace. The technology was necessary, but it was the business model innovation that made them unbeatable. Takeaway 3. Management must evolve at every stage. The skills that built a family stage company will destroy a city stage company. The founder who wants to personally review every decision becomes the biggest bottleneck at 1,000 employees. Blitzscaling demands that leaders are willing to reinvent themselves, their style, their processes, and even their role, at every phase of growth. So who is this book actually for? It's for the entrepreneur who has found product-market fit and is staring at a massive market opportunity, wondering whether now is the time to press the gas. It's for the executive inside a large company who needs to launch a new business unit with startup speed in a corporate environment. It's for the investor trying to identify the companies most likely to achieve first scalar advantage and dominate their markets. And it's for anyone trying to understand why the world is changing so fast and who the companies are that are deliberately accelerating that change. Bill Gates captured the urgency in the foreword of this book perfectly. He wrote, "The window for action can be tiny and it can close quickly. Even a few months of hesitation can mean the difference between leading and chasing." Blitzscaling is the playbook for those who choose to lead.